Hello, my couture crafters. Let's get started on what I'm calling an adult shaker card. So, of course, I've got my little funky sizes here, and I think this one is 3.5 by 8.5. Again, just make your card nice, long, and skinny. Yeah, it's going to be 3.5 by, let's see. Yep, 8.5. So this one here, I just cut at 3.25 by 8.25, and I'm doing it again. 3.25 by 8.25. Got some nice festive colors here. You all know I love some stripes. And this card definitely has some stripes. I'm using my art glitter glue, which is my favorite glue of all time, just to go on ahead and tack this down permanently. I am not careful with this glue. I trust it. I love it. I would sell it if I could. So I'm making two cards at the same time. So there I was just kind of checking to make sure that I had a card base that was identical, because I have several card bases that I'm using for these cards that are just hanging out. So I just wanted to make sure they were the same, and they are. So I am tacking that down to permanently. Next, I have this small strip of black and white striped paper that I'm going to try to eyeball and center. I'm not being extra careful. I'm just eyeballing it. A lot of what I do is eyeballing. You never see me pull out a ruler and all that. For what? It's a handmade card. So right now I'm taking this frame. I used my Cricut to cut out this frame. If you want to cut out a window easily, cut out a rectangle or a square the size that you want the window, and then place it on another piece of cardstock, trace it, and then cut it out with an X-Acto knife. That is probably one of the easiest ways to get a nice frame without using a die cutting machine. But there, I just traced around it with a pencil so that I can know where to put my foam. So I am gluing this down in between those pencil marks, and I'm gluing that down permanently. Then I'm just checking to make sure that the frame on this one is right. So I'm tracing around it with a pencil. Again, the inside of the frame and the outside of the frame. I'm just using a mechanical pencil. I'm drawing my lines lightly all around, the inside and the outside. Again, I'm doing that to know where the foam needs to go, because I want to hide the foam behind that frame. So next we're going to do some heat embossing, and that is my funnel. So I'm taking my embossing buddy and I'm rubbing it all across all of this cardstock. Next I'm going to grab my Tim Holtz platform and line up this card. Now I'm using the Tim Holtz greetings, Christmas greetings or stamp from the Christmas time stamp set. I can't get enough of this stamp set. I have used this stamp set over and over and over again. I go between using my Misty and my Tim Holtz platform. For rubber, I really prefer the Tim Holtz platform because it's so easy. You don't have to pull out the foam. It's just easy peasy. I'm using Versamark, which is a clear sticky ink, to ink up this stamp. Really good. I'm using the platform just in case it doesn't get the best impression and I have to go over it again. I don't have very many of these handy, so I really don't want to mess this one up. And so I just used the Tim Holtz platform. I picked it up and tilted it to see where that sticky ink was, to see if I got a good impression. I didn't like it, so I did it again. Now I'm taking that paper that I folded and I put it under my card. This is Ranger's China Red embossing powder. It's really, really chunky and it has gold flecks in it too. So it's not a smooth, ultra thin, not an ultra fine embossing powder. It's chunky and it's red and it's got gold in it. It's multicolored. I'm using a dry brush just to knock off any of that excess embossing powder. And it wasn't bad at all. If I hadn't have used that embossing buddy, it probably would have been very bad. Then I just take the paper and funnel it back. Now I'm going to grab my heat gun and I'm letting it get hot. I'm just holding it over there and letting it warm up some. And then I'm going over this embossing powder. This is my first time using this big chunky Ranger embossing powder, and I might have heated it up a little bit longer than it had to have been heated, just because I thought those big chunks were supposed to disappear, but they didn't. So I've got some buckling on my paper. I'm not concerned about it. I'll just throw it under a heavy book and it will flatten right back out. So I use my hand and a towel there to wipe up that sticky clear ink. It's not a big deal. And now I'm grabbing another stamp from the same set. This is one that I haven't used at all yet. Season's Greetings, and it's got that funky, swirly S and the G over there. And we're going to do the exact same thing. Embossing Buddy it all over the place. Then we're going to grab our Versamark. It's easier for me to rotate it and close it like a book, so I just rotate the platform to the right. Now we're going to close it like a book, put some pressure on there, and see if we get a good image. It looks like I wanted to do it one more time just to be on the safe side. And there we are. You can't see it here, but I can kind of see it. It'll pick up the light a little bit. And now we'll all be able to see it. And there it is. Again, I'm just taking a dry paintbrush and cleaning up any embossing powder that got places where I didn't want it. I got a little happy with the brush and I knocked off the G. So I had to pour some more powder on there. No worries. Now we're going to funnel this right back into the cup so we don't waste any embossing powder. And that's it for the embossing powder. So now I've shown you guys how to emboss with white and colored embossing powders. I feel like white and black are the most used. People don't really use colored embossing powders too much anymore. So I turn on my gun, let it get hot, and heat it up again. And there you see it. It's embossed. I guess I thought I needed a little more heat, so a little more. And I'm playing with the paper to try to get the buckle out. Here I'm grabbing some Recollections Clear Transparencies. I can't find this pack anymore, but of course you can order transparencies off of Amazon and probably every place else. It's just a clear transparency or an acrylic sheet in different thicknesses and whatnot. So I'm cutting it here with my paper trimmer. You can't see it, but I'm cutting it to be the same size as that frame, maybe a little bit smaller than that gold frame, but just a little bit. Now I'm taking some foam tape. This is really inexpensive foam tape from, I got it from All That Scraps a long time ago, and I'd never used it. I'm too busy using my Scotch foam roll tape, so I figured I would go on ahead and use this and get rid of it. I am putting the foam tape between those lines that I drew with the pencil. I can see them, you guys can't. But we're just putting them in between the lines. And we're making sure that it touches. It doesn't touch right there, but that's okay. It's not a big enough gap for anything to really get through. But you want to make sure that everything touches so you don't have your shaker bits jumping out of there. Now I'm making sure that the transparency is big enough to touch all the tape and lock those little bits in place. Doing the same thing with the other one. Just going around the edges with some foam tape. That foam tape is probably about 1/8 of an inch thick. All around the sides. Making sure that everything is touching the best I can. And those pencil lines that we drew, I'm just taking a moment and erasing them, knocking out the pencil boogies, erasing, erasing, erasing with a white eraser. I love that eraser. Now I'm taking an anti-static tool. It's the same thing as an Embossing Buddy, but that one has a little brush on it. And I'm just brushing it around so that the little bits that I put in there shake around smoothly, nothing gets stuck, and to try to knock off any of the adhesive that might be around the sides. I'm using some repositionable tape there, right there when I knocked off the little bits. You see how tiny those bits are? Such a pain in the patootie. But that was just to make sure that the card stays closed. So that was repositionable tape. It was not permanent tape, because what you don't want is for that card to go flying flying open while you have your little bits in there. I'm taking a few pieces of glue so that when you shake the card, everything doesn't go all the way down to the bottom. You want little things to get caught on other stuff so that it gives you, the shaker effect. You don't want all your goodies just at the bottom of the card. That's not cute. So I always glue a couple of little sequins or whatever little goodies around the card so that things get stuck so that you can see that it's a shaker card and all your stuff just isn't settling at the bottom. Unless you've got like a snow globe card and you just want it all down there at the bottom until you don't, but whatever. I'm using a mixture of sequins and little tinsel pieces. Most of these are by Alton, A-L-T as in Tom, O-N as in Nancy, Alton Crafts. I really like their little bits and baubles. Way less expensive than Queen & Company, which is at the top left. I actually don't end up using any of those Queen & Company. The color palette wasn't right. So I took off all the foam tape backing, and now I have it on, the clear transparency. Now I'm taking this glue. Yes, this glue works on acetate too. And I'm just gluing my frame on there. And there you have it, an adult shaker card. Look at that, isn't that fun? And then I start playing with it. Then I'm like, focus. Let's do the other one. So for this one, I think I wanted to get super creative. I am putting down repositionable tape again. And I pull up the tape before I do anything. I'm pulling up the tape, backing. Because I'm like, I have an idea. Let's make this one super thick so that we can put some really cool things on the inside. This actually turns out to be, I think this is my favorite one. I am doubling up the tape so that there's more room between the transparency and the card so that I can put cooler bits and baubles in there. I had an idea. And there's the last piece. And I think this used up all that tape, which makes me very happy. Just about all that tape. I love to use up my stuff. I get so excited when I get to throw stuff in the trash can. Love it. See, look, this is my idea. I remembered I had some jingle bells. I don't know why I have little balls. I think they came from the Scrapbook Expo. Tall Mouse. They did. I'm almost positive. And so I am grabbing the green and red bells and I'm putting them in the card. And yes, I'm using my nails to scoop that out, which would just freak my mother out. She hates my nails. But I'm using it as a scoop because it's just easier. And I'm mixing in some green and red and matte red and glossy red sequins. More green, I thought. Then I grabbed some clear little party favor looking ones from Alton Crafts and then some more of that little tinsel. And then I looked at that and thought the color story is just all wrong. And of course, took a little bit of that glue and just glued down some pieces here and there so that the stuff would get stuck. Making sure that that fits over the top. Now it's time to release the backing on the foam. Again, make sure you fill your stuff before you release your foam. Otherwise, you'll have stuff stuck all over the place. So now we'll put that transparency on and make sure that it is going to hide under that frame. And there we are. We're going to use this art glitter glue one more time. And there we go. That art glitter glue, if you've never used it, will change your life. It's a weird consistency. You would think it would be thicker than it is, but it's not. It's thin like water. I grabbed a couple of Brutus Monroe bows. I wasn't sure what size was going to look best on these cards. So I just stamped a couple of them just in case I needed that size as opposed to the size that I ended up using. So there we are. Then I decided I would do just a touch of Copic coloring. So I'm using Memento Black ink here, which is a Copic friendly ink, which is like the OG Copic friendly ink. Then I grabbed my Altenew bow set and a couple of colors from Catherine Pooler, which are all up there. Samba was a brand new color when I used this. It might be probably one of the newer colors still. And I just stamped that all over or I just inked it up. And I decided to do it twice. This was my first time using this ink pad to see what color it is. And it really is like a Samba color. It's funny because I would think that that would be the Rockin' Red, but it's not. Rockin' Red is deeper than that Samba color. It's like a lighter red. And this is a layering bow stamp set. So of course my head is going to get in the way. I can't help that. Best way to layer a stamp is jump on top of it and look through it. It's pretty much the only way you can layer. I can't layer from sitting back where I am. I have to get on top. One more time, guys. And let's see what we get. Looks all right to me. You guys see how the definition from that darker color went right on top of it? Love layering stamps. It's just, Altenew has just got some of the best layering stamps ever. And this is a really cute bow. If you guys don't know, I love bows. Bows, bows, bows. So out of that same set, I'm going to grab some of the spruce leaves and I'm going to blend the ink on the actual stamp. I grabbed 2 colors, green skirt and spruce, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to take the green skirt, the grass skirt, that's called grass skirt. Then I take the spruce and just put it on the edges. I'm not being careful. I'm just mixing the colors, giving the spruce a little depth. Then I grabbed another piece that goes with this, which is the center, and I try to line that up the best I can. And I'm going to do it again. The second one is perfect. First one's off a little bit. Does it bother me? No, it just adds a little character. It'll be okay. And they have matching dies, so I'm going to go on ahead and, first I'm going to Copic color the Brutus Monroe bows. I love those little bows. I wish they were a little bit bigger with matching dies. That would make my life so much better. Although you'll see that with dies, most dies don't cut directly on that black line, and that's what I really want from my die. Because of the way that I use them, I do not like them to have that halo around the outside. Another reason why I will probably be buying a Brother Scan and Cut so that I can have it do my fussy cutting for me. If you don't know, fussy cutting is when you cut out an image, also known as the F word in my house. We don't say it, we don't do it if we can avoid it. I just used 2 colors of red. This is really, really, really simple Copic coloring. No clue what colors I use. Probably R24 and 27. That's usually my jam, I think. Or R27, 29. I don't know. I'm not a Copic colorist per se. I just throw down some colors here and there. So I'm throwing down some reds, guys. No rhyme or reason. Just saturating the paper and making sure it's got some depth to it. I throw down my C plate, my magnetic plate, and a B plate. Then I grab my paper, my bow, and I line it up the best I can until I feel good about it. Then I grab some of that purple repositionable tape and just tape it down just so that it doesn't move any more than it already is going to move. Just a little piece. Then I throw another B plate on top. I run it forward and backward. And there we have a little bow. I'm going to do the same thing with the spruce and the other bow. Just lining it up, putting a little piece of tape on there. I'm using my Cuttlebug. This is an old school Cuttlebug. They have a newer one now. I like the old one. It works just fine. It's not broken. I'm not planning on upgrading at this point. I'll just keep it. And there we have it. I just glued the bows on top with that art glitter glue and grabbed my 2 favorite pre-done envelopes by Hobby Lobby. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and checking out my adult shaker cards. We still got a couple more coming in the series, so I'll see you then. Thanks.